Lorcana has revealed their second set called Rise of the Floodborn, as well as spoiling a bunch of new cards from that set. So today we're going to break that down, and I'm going to show you a couple of little cute Easter eggs they've hidden around in some of the articles that might allude to more than what they've shown already. Plus, if you stick around long enough, you might have a chance to win something in this video. Let's get started. First things first, let's get this out of the way. The elephant in the room is this. It is very hard currently to find product, whether that be just there's not enough product, or really what it probably is, it's just people buying it up and then trying to flip it or sell it at a major profit, which is just unfortunate, just very scummy in a lot of respects. And I'm not a big fan because I want to get my hands on cards and play the game with my kids, who I taught how to play, took them to a launch event, they had a blast. Now they come home every day after school and they play a game together at my kitchen table, which is just wonderful. It's just beautiful, and I want them to do that more. And in order to store the cards and store the decks as we played through this event, my sons and I each used one of these cool Gamegenic Bastion 100 XLs. These are brand new. These are fantastic little things. They sent on over, Gamegenic sent these over for us to try out and use. The lid literally just pops off like that. An easy connect piece that you would expect. My kids, once they got the hang of it, they actually pick these up when they get home. They take the decks out all by themselves and they just play them. It's super easy and convenient to store your decks in. It's simple to kind of just have them stocked up, stacked up, ready to go. And they even come with like a little spot at the top for you to label your deck with a little sticker, so you can kind of take this sticker, apply it. It comes in the box as well. They sent a blue color, they sent a black color, and they sent a really cool looking pink color, which is my personal favorite actually. And one of you are actually going to get one of these. In fact, I am going to give out this black one to someone in the comments below in the original box, all set up and ready to go. I am going to give this to you. So if you would like to win this literally for free, I will just mail it to you. Leave a comment down below. Tell me your favorite new Lorcana card from the Rise of the Floodborn set that they've shown off thus far, and then go follow Gamegenic and follow me on Twitter so that I can reach out to you there. I will send this out to you for free. Literally just that. I'll pick a winner. I'll ask you your mailing address and I'll just mail this to you, all for the low price of commenting. That's pretty cool. So I'm looking for product, and I'm sure you're looking for product as well. The biggest thing that can pull this game back and hold this game back is people not being able to actually play it. That's the thing that we got to worry about. So there is a reprint due next year for the first set. There is a supposedly a second wave-ish coming down the pipeline this or next month, depending on where you're watching this. Nevertheless, hopefully that gets ironed out, and with the release of a second set, if you will, we might have an easier time getting our hands on cards overall, because this set is going to release with the full regalia of starter products and troves and things of that nature. So let's dive into that. There's a lot of articles right now floating around about it, but one of the best that I personally really enjoyed reading was this one on Polygon's website, because it gives a couple of little details that aren't in some of the other copies. So if you haven't read this, you might find something interesting in this, kind of like I did. So first things first, this breaks down the new set is called Rise of the Floodborn, and they talk a little bit about the storyline right here, wherein the set itself is sort of pushing you into this narrative of the inks themselves have been released in a chaotic and mixed up form, and as they spilled over onto these glimmers, which, by the way, if you didn't know, the cards and the characters you're playing are referred to as glimmers in the lore. As they spill onto those glimmers, they're transforming them into floodborn glimmers. Storyborn characters are very much characters that just follow their storylines. Dreamborn characters are sort of idealized in a way, but then you get Floodborn, which are like these brand new, almost chaotic takes on characters. We have some Floodborn in the game already, but this set looks like it's all about Floodborn, as you can see some of these new cards, which we will talk about here in a moment, including, yes, this card that everyone says is broken, and I don't necessarily quite buy it, but stick around if you want my personal opinion. Nevertheless, as the magical ink poured out of the Illuminary, which is where we are kind of in and collecting lore, treasured lore went with it, and this is something that I think other articles have ignored, including Disney's Kings, Tritons, powerful trident. So this is another card I think we are definitely going to see in the set that hasn't been spoiled yet. You can expect a trident. It's probably going to be powerful, as they say, but they've also given us little hints and like tidbits about this set, talking about Floodborn, but also talking about some of the items that are going to be in this set that we'll look at here in a moment as well. Things like the Sorcerer's Spellbook and Dinner Bell. And I do want to point out that I think this set is going to lean a little bit on items based on some of the other things that they've talked about. But that being said, some of the other IPs, if you will, or stories that are being brought into this second set are, you know, like the Jungle Book, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Pinocchio, you're going to see that, but you're also going to see the Great Mouse Detective, which is super fun, hence why we actually see the Dinner Bell here, which is Radigan's Dinner Bell, and Zootopia, which we haven't seen anything spoiled for yet, and Raya and the Last Dragon, which we will actually see Raya here in a moment. Nevertheless, this is not to be confused with the other set that is not really a set that's coming out. This is just a separate product, like a gift box product, which I will put on the screen right now. It is the Disney Lorcana Disney 100 edition. If you didn't know, Disney's been celebrating its 100th year anniversary for like 5 years now, which is hilarious because I'm taking my kids to Disney at the beginning of next year. Congratulations to us in the chat if you're really excited for us. We are incredibly excited. I am taking my wife for our 10-year anniversary and my kids for their first trip to Disney, and it's coinciding with Disney 100, so maybe we're going to take some Lorcana stuff with us and like have fun in the parks. Either way, this is going to be a secondary product, as you can see on the screen, with these stylized versions of some of the cards from set 1, which you can see here, and new cards from set 2, which we'll talk about here in a moment, which is very cool. And at the very bottom of the article, we can see a list of products that are going to be releasing alongside of this set drop, and it's the things you would generally expect. Of course, booster packs are going to stay at $6, which I personally not huge on. I do think that they should knock it down $1, but then again, at the same time, it's selling, so they're probably not going to, and more power to them, I guess. Unfortunately, people are buying them up and then trying to sell them for far more, which I don't agree with. Amber Sapphire is going to be one of the starter decks featuring the Queen and Gaston. We'll look at the picture of that in a second. $17, and then Amethyst Steel, which I think is a great little combo. Merlin and Tiana, $17 as well. There is a Trove scheduled, so just I saw some people asking on Twitter. Yes, Trove is a thing that is going to be released, and Lumineers Trove will combine with this. The playmats look absolutely beautiful this time around. Not that they weren't before, but I think they're even better this time. We have card sleeves featuring Sisu and Mulan, which also look very good. And bouncing over here to the Dicebreaker article that you can also find. I'll link both of these in the description if you want to read them in detail. But the release date is on November the 17th, so you got a little bit of time before this actually releases. And big box stores get this on December the 1st, so you're getting it, of course, like they did with the first set, first in LGSs. Try to buy from your LGS first, please, and then December 1st you can run out and go get some stuff at a big box store. Now let's break down the spoilers that we've seen thus far, starting with Raya, Warrior of Kamandra. It's a 4 inkable cost, 1 quester that goes for 5/3, so a 5/3 is pretty solid body overall. Can be traded into at sort of an advantageous range with your opponents having 3 attack. Pretty basic and generic 4-drop overall, questing for 1 and able to trade down. But it's kind of cool to see Raya, which is one of my middle son's favorite movies. We took him to see that for his birthday when it came out, which is kind of cool. Moving on, we have Merlin, a 4-drop 1/5 that quests for 1 with Battle of Wits. Whenever one of your other characters is returned to your hand from play, this character gets 1 lore this turn. A bit situational unless we see more bounce effects. It could also make for a great sort of synergistic deck building sort of puzzle if we receive, you know, like a board bounce effect, or like I bounce one thing, you bounce another. That sort of an effect onto the game. This becomes a lot more synergistic, but a very cool idea if you can play around that. Otherwise, it's going to be really situational and not super powerful. That being said, you could also play his Sorcerer's Spellbook, which I think this card's insane. It is a 3-drop, and when you turn it to its side and exert it and pay 1, you gain a lore. That is quite good. And this is another of those cards that alludes to the idea of there being, some more sort of item love. They mentioned King Triton's staff in the article, and here this is another item that we see in play, that gaining a lore on command is something that, especially if you stack this up, your opponent can't counterplay into unless they run item hate, and that is quite good. Is it going to be good enough to build a full deck around? Probably not, and that's probably what you want. You don't want a deck that can just play solitaire, but it can, in a pinch, just be something you feed resources into to gain lore incrementally, and that's the point of the game, is just continuing to gain lore until you win. So this is a really solid card in my opinion. And now we talk about resist 2. Okay, look, resist is a really good keyword that I feel like one of those articles that I read kind of hated on it a little bit. They were like, it's not too flashy, it's not too wonderful. Okay, look at this. This is a 5-drop if you shift it onto Cinderella, but even if you don't, you pay 7 for this. Why is this good? Well, it's a 5/5 that quests for 3. And it says whenever you play a song, this character can challenge ready characters. Challenging ready characters, first of all, is really good. It is also in the the correct color. It's in steel so that you can play swords on this, which is really good. But besides all of that, resist 2 is really powerful because it says damage dealt to this character is reduced by 2. Now, if this is to be interpreted correctly, that means when she is taking damage in her own combat, in her own challenge, or when someone's challenging her, it's 2 less. Trading into this really essentially makes her a 5/7 on the base of it. And it makes like these incremental trades where your opponent just sends multiple things into her that much worse. All resist characters, especially this one statted so like strongly on the attack, are going to be so much harder to deal with that oftentimes your opponent's probably just going to leave it on the board unless they just have the stat advantage into the trade. And this card's really strong if you can play it. Elsa Gloves Off. This is one of those cards that you can get in the 100, the Lorcana 100 anniversary gift product. It is a 4-drop 3/4 that has Challenger 3. So again, able to trade fairly well and nicely on the board. Probably can go for like a 2-for-1 on the board over the course of 2 turns. Your opponent's gonna send something else into it after you use it to remove something. Zero to Hero is really cool. First of all, it's a great song, actually just fantastic song. Cost 2, you can't ink it. It says that count the number of characters you have in play. You may pay that amount of ink less for the next character you play this turn. In the scenario where you're not having to pay for this card and you're singing for it, which is what you should be doing, the card's really cool and really good. And it pushes more of those like 4 and 5 drop cards out onto the field, which can be very splashy and very exciting. Mickey Mouse is one of those cards that you could actually go and find and get. Cost 6, you can ink it. It can quest for 3. It's a 1/6 and says whenever this character quests, you can pay 3 less for the next character you play this turn. It's pretty solid. This is another one of those cards you can get from the Disney 100 box set in a sort of a nicer finish, if you will. And the fact that even if you just establish this and stick it for a turn and they don't Dragonfire it, you get 3 lore and you get a 3 discount. That is quite good. In a way, you can almost think of this paying for itself. Like, it takes a turn of tempo for you to play this. But once you've done that, it gives you another turn of tempo in a sense by giving you 3 lore, making your opponent trade into this so they don't get another 3 lore, and giving you a discount on that turn. Card seems real good. Dinner Bell costs 4. You can't ink it. It says you know what happens. You have to tap it and then pay 2 ink. And draw cards equals the damage of chosen or on chosen character of yours, and then you banish your card. So, and essentially, it is it's a Ruby's way of drawing cards, and this is something I was really curious to see how they're going to bring the card draw mechanic into the game going forward, because other games like for example Alpha Clash that have a very similar I take a card from my hand and it becomes a resource where you kind of mill your own hand over the first 4 or 5 turns. They've found their solution by just tacking on draw a card on a bunch of their cards, so their card effects like end with drawing a card to replace itself. This game doesn't have that, and yet it's going to do things like this to allow different colors to be able to draw cards differently, and I think that's really cool. The Queen is also really cool. She's a 5-drop 4/3. She can be inked and she can quest for 2, but you can shift her onto one of your other ones, which is really good because you drop from a 5 cost down to a 2 cost, which is kind of insane. And she says whenever this character quests, chosen opposing character gets -4, and then chosen character gets +4. So essentially you can make really good trades. This card, even though you can get it out early, and probably still want to get it out early, feels like a great keep. Like you hold on to this card and you play it down at the right moment to make a really solid trade that immediately flips the board. And I think it's a quite powerful one. And this is one of the Floodborns that we have seen. Alongside of Winnie the Pooh, a 5-drop as well that can be inkable. This is just a 5-drop 5/5 that quests for 2. There's just a miss here. The problem is it should quest for 5 to complete the cycle. A 5-drop 5/5 that quests for 5, now that would be... I'm just kidding, everyone. Don't flame me in the comments. That is not what you want on this card, because that would be insane if it could quest for 5. Gaston literally made me chuckle. He cannot be inked. He costs 6. He's a 4/4. He quests for 3. You can shift him on to the other Gaston that's not as smart as him, because this Gaston is smart. He's an intellectual powerhouse. He's so good, he can develop your brain attached to him. He's develop your brain on a stick, and that is a very cool effect. I snickered. Like I was sitting at my desk at work, and I snickered when I saw this card out loud. It was fantastic. I think this card's super fun. Tatiana is a steel 4-drop, can't be inked. It's a 1/4, and it has resist too, so it's technically a 1/6 in a way. Can quest for 2, and while she's exerted and you have no cards in hand, your opponent can't play actions to catch up. And in a game where it's all about board state, and you are playing out your control pieces with steel, you know, playing out swords and playing out smash and playing out fire the cannons and things like that, you're able to play these things, and then finally when you go hand empty and your opponent's to the point where they've gone hand empty because you've run them out of cards by removing their threats and trying to get them to claw back on the board, you stick this, you exert it, and then they can't catch up with you know, traditional like action play means. I think that's really cool. I think it's a cool effect, and it's going to be hard to remove this. And finally, we come to the card that everyone's freaking out about, including several of my friends in a group chat. A Bell Hidden Archer is a 5-drop uninkable card, can quest for 3, is a 3/3. So there it is. There's the complete 3/3 quest for 3. You can shift her, so she can also become a 3 cost if you think about it that way. Thorny Arrows. Whenever this character's challenged, just when it's challenged, the challenging character's player discards all cards in their hand. Card's really ridiculously strong, of course, we all agree on that, but not game-breakingly so. Here's why. Yes, if you stick her early game, she quests like crazy. Understanding when and how to build your deck to play around powerful cards, okay? If this is a meta-shaping card, a meta-defining card, then people should be playing more spot removal. Yes, currently in set 1, spot removal almost exclusively belongs, well, in some cases it belongs to emeralds because you can bounce things back to hand, but almost exclusively belongs to steel. That just means you should play steel, okay? So you understand that certain decks are going to be pushed down based on cards like this. It's meta-defining, it's not necessarily game-breaking, but it can be in an early game scenario, and it can snowball you to a win in an early game scenario. It also just means that you need to find ways to remove things in more than just challenging fashion. Now, this is going to be requiring answers, and if set 2 doesn't have a lot of spot removal, then I do think that it's probably too pushed. I think this card's probably too pushed. But assuming that we get spot removal in other colors, like deal 2 or deal 3, that doesn't revolve around challenging, then this card will see a little bit of counterplay in that respect. So it can be super busted, but I'm hoping in a lot of ways that it's not necessarily going to be that way with what we see in set 2. So that's everything you need to know about this new set. It is looking very crazy, very cool. And I do want to say, if you want to get your hands on these cool deck boxes, leave a comment down below. Go follow GameGenic, go follow me, both on Twitter, so head on over to Twitter, leave a comment down below, and I will pick a winner that wins one of the boxes that me and my kids used at our launch event. One of the really cool new GameGenic Bastions, which worked out really well for us there at the event. They were fantastic, like I talked about earlier. If you enjoyed this video, make the number go slightly higher, and as always, thanks for watching.